Welcome back to the Thrive Under Pressure podcast. I'm excited to welcome our next guest, Conrad Goodhue, an accredited sports dietitian whose impact has been felt from grassroots sport to elite sport. Since age 4, Conrad has immersed himself in sport, rugby, cricket, squash, golf, surfing, diving, ultra marathons, from provincial level to international level, which gives him a deep and lived understanding of their athletic experience. He's become a trusted performance nutritionist for top-tier teams, including the Crusaders, as well as stints with the Black Ferns and Canterbury Cricket. His work goes beyond fielding athletes. He's developed structured protocols around hydration, gut training, recovery, and competition nutrition. So each designed to help players and people excel through pressure of their sport. So big welcome, Conrad, and it's great to have you on, mate.
Thanks, mate. Not sure. I don't know whether it's from the website or something.
Yeah.
It's always hard when you listen back what you've been up to, hey? Yeah.
Nice. Can you just tell us a little bit about, what got you into sort of nutrition and dietitian stuff in the first place?
Yeah, it's probably a good question, I guess. I think where it all sort of really started for me is actually my second, I think it was my end of the second year of uni. I was actually at the time, I was trying to put on weight for rugby. I was just obviously too small and going to the gym, I actually was lifting with the front row boys, did a bit of powerlifting, so I was really strong, but for some reason I just couldn't put on size. And it was actually the front row boys were taught obviously what they were doing, and as they are, and there was actually the paleo diet that they were doing. They're like, we've got to do this diet, it's the best thing. And sure enough, scrawny little, and I'm 5'10", not even that, probably lucky if I'm that, 5'9", and just 60 kilos, 65 kilos, I definitely put on size, and paleo diet just didn't work, obviously. So it actually got me to investigate nutrition and thought there's surely a better way of doing this. So then that took me down to, at that time, to Dunedin, and I spent another 5 years down there studying specifically sport dietetics. And was the goal. I've actually really found a love for the clinical side of sport. And working with athletes, especially in the clinic realm, which is where I'm at. It's a big part of my role too, wherever I land and whoever I'm working with.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I guess I get with those front row boys, just genetically, whatever they eat, they get big. Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
the
definitely.
paleo diet, I was definitely thinking that wouldn't be working.
No, and that's the thing. It's so different for every athlete that I work with. Hey, and some of those front row guys actually perform better with, with high carbohydrate intakes, and some don't. And it's just the nature of what they've been brought up with, what they've been exposed to. So I think that was actually interesting. You sort of touched on that when I first walked into the Crusaders environment 8 years ago. We kind of like segmented, I guess, unfolded body comp data in terms of gainers, maintainers, and losers. I kind of just said, no, we've got to do this differently. We've got to look at it from the athlete first. And so this is where we sometimes think, the front row boys need to go on. They're the ones that can't, keep their body composition down, all the rest of it, which isn't entirely true if we look at it from an individual perspective. It's the same as you got outsiders that, struggle, with that as well. So, it's been a pretty special journey over the last few years, sort of dissecting that a little bit more. And a lot of it stems from my own experience of probably getting not necessarily poor advice. It's probably just a lack of understanding of, I guess, nutrition for an individual rather than this is the way that we need, or this is the way we should all do it. If that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, cool. Well, that segues nicely into Crusaders. Obviously, pretty cool to get back on the winning titles again, which is not too accustomed. So you've been there 8 years.
Yeah, so this is my 8th season with the team.
We
technically 8 years at the end of this year.
And so you must have won every year but last year almost, was it?
Yeah, so seven championships I've been part of. So I missed the first one. It's 2017, so I started at the end of that year, and then managed to sort of jump on the dynasty that is the Crusaders train over the last 8 years.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit just about how your role works with them? Like, I found it pretty interesting how you have to run their because going on tour must be the hard part, where you have to send stuff to the hotel, what they feed them and that sort of stuff.
I think people often ask me, what does the day look like for you? And it's highly variable, and we can sit down and try plan for the season. This is what we expect, but there's always curveballs thrown at us, whether it's change in travel plans, as you alluded to. And actually, we've got a really good system in place now. SANZS have sort of set requirements. The only issue is that we can't really adapt them just due to funding and stuff. And I think that's probably the hardest thing, because what the old expectations are is like 3 meals and that's kind of it. Traditionally, is whereas I actually work off like a 4 meal/5 meal approach with my athletes at home. So I think that's probably the biggest thing. It's not necessarily what we eat, what we feed them, because getting good food and set good standards is probably almost the easiest part. It's actually the frequency and how to fit into their schedules is probably the hardest part, especially when they travel. But it's also, I think, the roles evolved quite significantly. I guess nutrition's always been associated with, getting athletes leaner or getting them bigger and all sort of body comp KPIs, where now it's actually integrated. I'm really fortunate with the team that I work in. I sort of sit between the medical and the S&C and performance, where it's actually like immune health, it's injury rehabilitation, it's, looking at the overall wellness of a player, of how do we get them to perform, but it's looking at the stuff outside of footy. Where sometimes we've been taught that, hey, it's about calories and it's about, protein targets, and just give them a meal plan and they'll fix them. This is all these other factors that we've got to take into consideration. So yeah, I think and Mum said that when I first started, and it was probably the best advice when I first applied for the Crusaders role. Was I was a new grad at the time, and they're really good at developing people. And that's why I felt the biggest thing of being in part of that franchise was the development of me as a practitioner, because they actually gave me the tools, that they trusted each other. And I think that's why it's such a special place, not just for the players, but for the organisation as a whole.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. And I guess I think I've talked to like Webby's part of our Toastmasters group, and I've talked to a few of the previous. What was the previous manager's name?
It was Shane Fletcher.
Fletch. That's right. Yeah. So he used to take a few of our guys through like trainings, just to like show us through the Crusaders stuff. It's pretty cool. But he used to talk about like the food stuff is even used part of the culture, like, like bringing each other together to share food, and it's not just about, as you said, like just what you eat and.
And that's, I think, when we look at models overseas, especially with those organisations that have a lot of money, that they'll go, well, just like, I think we look at some of the football teams, for example, they'll go, we own you, here is your meal, this is what you're going to eat. That's how it's structured a lot overseas. Whereas in New Zealand, nutrition is a massive pillar of our culture, not just in terms of like, traditional like hangi foods and food, you go to whatever it is, you actually, like food's a part of that. You go to have Christmas or you go to tangi, you do anything like that, food's a massive part of that. So we need to embrace that in our group, and we do use it as a connection. And that's what Ray was really good with. He was always like, no, we want to have a Monday lunch, not necessarily to feed our boys the right nutrition. It's actually to bring us together as a connection point. And that's really important. So it's actually sitting down, it's having a yarn, it's inviting other people in, and it's that connection that I think is everything. But then on the secondary to that, I actually use it as an education opportunity as well, personally. So it's like ensuring that we set the standards of when we are going to provide food, does that align with what I want the boys to eat at home, and actually, what I want them to do. And I think that's the secondary part of it. And it's sort of like a silent, I guess, focus, whereas connection's number one, and then teaching number two. So when we go and have a discussion with them one-on-one, we go, okay, how did you feel about, Monday lunch? How did you set your plate up? Those are the expectations so that was a big thing that we overhauled when I first came in, and that was a massive driver from Razor, which was pretty special.
Yeah, nice. There's some pretty cool stuff goes on inside those walls that everyone would love to have a piece of.
Definitely.
Actually, it'd be interesting. What about obviously last year there's a bit of adversity, and it was, the results didn't go our way. But and then obviously we see the fruits of it this year. Like there was some different changes of players and stuff like that. Do you notice anything like being under a bit more pressure and a bit of stress, like how that affected the players in terms of would their habits change much, or is that part of what you guys do to make sure that stays there?
Yeah, I think, and that's what I did a post at the start of the finals, and that was focusing on actually relieving pressure from the players and just fine tuning it a little bit. I think, obviously it was a big shift for us last year, losing, a massive chunk of our coaching group. And I can't really sit here and say, but at sort of no point, maybe near the end when things were getting a bit tougher in the last 2 weeks, that I actually really felt worried. But as a team as a whole, I didn't actually feel internally that the culture was negative or bad things were happening necessarily, like it was portrayed externally.
Yeah.
And I think, with players, they tend, if someone is struggling, whether it be through injury or poor performance, they tend to buy into the programs a little bit more, which I didn't feel like that was suddenly something that started happening, because I didn't feel that was what was happening. I just think if, the bounce of the ball just didn't quite go our way, and it was small margins that we lost by in reality, if you want to dive into that. But at the end of the day, at no point last year did I feel like we were negative as a group necessarily. I think we had some really positive reviews that actually helped us reflect on the season. And I can't go into it too much, but I think you have to have, a tough year to actually see where you're at. But at no point did I feel like we were suddenly significantly better this year. I definitely think there were some positive things that we changed and refined. But as a whole last year, I think it was just more out of, just a little bit of luck that didn't go our way, but also, it's just the nature of sport, unfortunately, and we're just unfortunately on the wrong side of a couple of games, and that was it.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess that's sticking to, everyone, well, sure, a lot of the public was saying, throw out the coaches and blah, blah, blah. And then, you stick with them, make a few changes and look what happened.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is I'm definitely an external provider to the group, and I'm a support person, so I don't have a lot to do with the internal discussions or those major discussions. But look, at no point did I feel that it was necessarily significantly different than years prior. Obviously, big shift with the coaching group and losing Ray and that sort of stuff, which is that's natural, and that's probably natural that happens. But Pence is a great coach.
Yeah,
from what I work with anyway.
Yeah, nice. So nice. Sort of along those lines, I don't know much about this sort of stuff. So, what's the relationship between gut health and nutrition, and how that affects your mental clarity and your stress, and how you manage that sort of stuff?
That's a very good question. So I guess they talk about the gut-brain axis, obviously that the gut creates significant amounts of, I guess, serotonin and that sort of stuff, but I'm not going to dive into that too much in terms of physiology. At the end of the day, see it as, there is a relationship between the two. But I see it as a circle rather than a causation. A lot of people go, when your gut's unhappy, you're unhappy. But I'm like, also, if you're unhappy or you're stressed, it can impact your gut too. It's a two-way street. I think there's a lot of, I guess, people often talk about, gut health being the in thing at the moment. And my advice is, you do the basic stuff really well, you will look after your gut. So, it's pretty clear in terms of, we look at the stats on the nutrition and food surveys that are done, and of the population, of the adult population in New Zealand, I think it's around about sort of 5% of the population actually hit their fruit and veggie targets.
Yeah.
That in itself is mind-blowing. So we talk about all these things that we do for our gut. We take probiotics, we take prebiotics, we take all these supplements that impact our gut. At the end of the day, if you're not doing the basic stuff right, it's kind of pointless. So we looked at the food pyramid in the past, but actually in reality, the pyramid's changed to actually what should the focuses be, the key rocks at the bottom, to the nice little halves at the top, not from a food perspective, but just from those basic foundations. My advice when it comes to I look at it, food is, I often explain, as a drive your like a car, right? So you got your macronutrients, so your fuels, your carbohydrates, your proteins, kind of the frame, but your fats are kind of and the fuel there as well, so you throw that in with carbs. But your fruit and veg is what, I guess, looks after the car, it services the car. Can you drive a car without oil?
Yeah, not for long.
You can, but it just doesn't go very well, right? So if we look at our bodies the same way, is okay, are we actually getting enough fiber, and specifically from fruit and veg? So if people go, oh yeah, but the food industry is making it hard. I'm like, there are fruit and veg shops down the road. Obviously this time of year, frozen's great. But if you start at that point, and I've had a lot of clients that come and see me that come in with these, they have like bread allergies, and they're not tolerating food that well, and their gut's a little bit unhappy. First thing I do is go, let's get enough fiber back into your diet, and we'll start there, and then we'll start worrying about all the other issues that come with that. So, and what I find is actually their gut sort of resolves itself when it gets better again. A lot of the time it's just due to trying to find the magic pill, but unfortunately the magic pill is in those beautiful things that we have that we can be locally sourced. In New Zealand, and just to sort of note on that, we are very fortunate with the food quality that we have. I'm saying that it potentially could be slightly on the down, but compared to other countries, I think we are very fortunate that you can go into a local supermarket and still get good quality, fresh meat, veg, etc. But then obviously if you can get local stuff, even better.
Yeah, nice. I think I've heard you talk about it before, like how, if we can eat the whole stuff, the like supplementation's fine, but only it should be topping up rather than the source, right? Like it's not going to
It's a
replace
supplement too.
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
And AIS the Australian Institute of Sport have a supplement framework, and they've got a beautiful model that is just like the perception of sport nutrition, and it's like an upside down pyramid essentially, with the supplements is the most important thing.
Yeah.
And then it's like sport nutrition, and then it's like general health and wellness, but it's like flipping it up the other way. Yeah. General health and wellness first. If you got a healthy athlete, and an athlete that's ticking those fruit, veg boxes, eating enough food, number one. Number two, we start to target food around training, ensuring they're actually fueling for training. Number three, and that's the supplements. People used to call it sprinkles on a cake, but I find that boring. It's dated. I just go, supplementation definitely has its place, but I think it's a supplement too, right? Not a replacement of.
Yeah, nice. So we've started working, as I said earlier, we're primarily with athletes, but we've moved into some corporate stuff where we're looking at stress mitigation and sustainable well-being. Yeah, what sort of, I think one thing particularly when we talk at the workshops, when we get them to feedback about what happens when they're stressed and how their habits change, and most of them say diet turns to custard. They go to quick, easy food, and then exercise goes out the window, and then they get stressed, and then their performance goes out the window, their well-being goes out the window. So, is there much? I know it'd be tricky, but any sort of tips or guidelines around how to manage that and make it a little bit better to front foot it?
So many layers to this. I'll try to keep it precise. Number one thing is, what is your plan B?
Yeah.
Everybody focuses on what perfect looks like, and they go, okay, I need to exercise this amount of time, or if I don't, then it's a waste of time. Or I need to eat this perfect way, and if I don't, it's not. So I often encourage people to focus on, aim for 80%. I think you've probably heard that before. It's aim for 80.
Nice.
Where actually, if you just focus on trying to aim for 80% rather than for perfection, that could be a good place to start. And for most people, they go oh, if I'm not, as I said, not perfect, it's a waste of time. Look, and there are really good convenient options. If you can have the energy or time to bulk prep meals, if that floats your boat, then fair game.
Yeah.
If you might find that if you've got a bit of money to invest in food and nutrition, you could get, food delivered to your work every day. I talk a lot with, I guess, other young professionals, young, athletes who might be flatting, and they go, oh, the flatting food's really average. I'll be like, what are you doing for the rest of the meals during your week? Just control the controllables and just do what you can. And if you're doing better than before, then you're flexing that. And then it's kind of like stages of getting better. People try to go to that 100, it's like trying to sprint before you can even walk. Same in nutrition. So my advice would be get the foundations right. People often find that their evenings are probably the most concise meal. Don't worry about that. You worry about what it could be in the past. So if you find that breakfast is probably less important for some people, especially in the corporate space, but I'm not saying not to have breakfast. I think there is definitely a place for it, but people go, oh, I need to have breakfast, and they feel a lot of pressure in doing that. And if they don't do that, then they don't nail the rest of the day. I'll go, what are you doing during the day? So I'll go, okay, have you got a good lunch? Number one. Is it up to dinner standard? That's it. Would you have that lunch for dinner? If it's not, then that's an area for improvement. And that's it. And that doesn't have to be the same size. It's just dinner quality. You'll probably find to eat less dinner too. So that would be the first thing that I would do. Okay. And have desk snacks. If you have a desk at home, at work, that you have your desk snacks, which is super simple. Roasted chickpeas are fantastic. Nuts and seeds. Great. You should be having 30 grams of nuts and seeds every day. In fact. And you got things like, protein nut bars and that sort of stuff, not protein bars, protein nut bars. You got those there and a piece of fruit. You do your lunch, you have some of those snacks, and you have your dinner. You're probably a good chunk of the way of actually nailing what you need to do.
Yeah, nice.
And that should be relatively easy for a few people, where they can.
Yeah, cool. And then what about the likes of the impact of alcohol, caffeine, energy drinks? And it might be quite a big topic, but
Yeah, that is, again,
I feel like that's the things
layers
that
up.
people, replace to try and get the feeling.
Yeah, so caffeine is like, if we go back to the car analogy, like taking NOS.
Yeah.
Having NOS. I'm not saying taking NOS. They hit
Yeah,
the NOS button for it to go fast. If you don't have the fuel and your oil's still no good, then it's absolutely pointless.
Yeah, right.
That's it. So caffeine's, I think, probably it's used as a Band-Aid. It gets them through the morning, and then they have those crashes in the afternoon. Caffeine will suppress appetite as well.
Okay.
So when you wake up, cortisol's naturally higher, especially if you're stressed, it's going to be worse. So you're going to have less appetite in the morning. So you go, oh, yeah, I'll just have a coffee. And suddenly you're going to suppress that appetite through the morning, and you get to lunch and your body's like, I've had enough, you know?
Yeah.
I'll have my lunch, then I'll go to sleep, or I'll grab a scone with my coffee, and then again, you're not really getting any nourishment in your body. Not that scones are bad. Scones definitely have a place, but it's just, it's that whole mindset behind it. So that's on caffeine. I think it's not about not having caffeine. I think it's about what are you missing from having caffeine? And it's often fluid. So you drink a lot less, I guess, water generally, as well as your appetite is suppressed. So it could be that, okay, I need to make sure I have a glass of water before I get up, before I have my coffee. In between, I do that as well. You could start off with decaf. Easy way to reduce the caffeine intake, because it's probably the caffeine itself more so than the coffee. So those are a couple of strategies there. In terms of the alcohol, look, there's Ministry of Health guidelines around alcohol, but they still come out and say no, alcohol is better. And we're starting to understand that for those that have wearables, whether it be like an Oura Ring, Garmin, Whoop, etc. Heart rate variability is the marker of how much time you're spending in your parasympathetic nervous system. I'm sure you've talked about that with your group. Alcohol pretty much will drop that down. And it's kind of like any more than 3 drinks. Actually, I was reading a study the other day. It's like 0.3 grams per kilogram of body weight. It's people that would be 3 standard drinks. You'll be starting to tip into problematic space in terms of going to impact that stress on the body. In terms of alcohol, I see it even during the week, like if you're going out for a beer and socializing, there's a good reason for that. I enjoy a really good craft beer. Some of we're getting way better zeros now, but I enjoy going out because I like actually having a craft beer. But it's when people come home at the end of the day, they're like, I'm so exhausted, I just need a drink. Problematic behavior. That probably comes from poor eating, poor hydration, too much caffeine, and you're trying to switch off at the end of the night because they're like, oh, it helps me sleep. But your sleep is not good quality. And then you're just adding to the stress bucket. And then you're going to wake up feeling awful, and then you're just going to rinse and repeat every single day. So my advice would be, look, minimal alcohol. And I always say if people do drink during the week, I'd say knock the weekday drinking on the head, because it's probably not actually giving you any value. If it's going out for dinner with friends, family, colleagues, that sort of stuff, I guess I'll probably, in the corporate space, probably focus on the non-colleague thing, because they often take people out for drinks. But go for zeros. It's now no longer taboo. That's a normal thing to do. It also means you have to park your car in town and have to worry about and get an Uber and waste money. There's actually benefits to just doing that, especially when it's not necessary.
That's interesting, because obviously dry July at the moment. I did a dry July last year. I think it was last year. A lot of people have noticed this recently. I just went, I actually don't miss this. There's nothing so now I'm not a non-drinker, but I'll only, as you said, drink if there's something on it, like where there's a special occasion, or we actually going to socialize. Totally. Whereas a lot of people, I think, just habitually do it, right? Just for, as you said, masking something, get the feeling.
Come home and have a beer, right? That was what our family was. Either beer, the beer fridge was always stocked, and you come home and just have a beer. That's just what happened. And because it's cultural, I guess it's generationally ingrained in us. What's actually interesting, you speak about dry July. That was what changed my perception around drinking. What was I? I was 5 years, I think, into university, and I was not good, like in terms of alcohol. Obviously with the ADHD stuff, it all makes sense now, but I was, the only thing that stopped me drinking on a Friday night was rugby on a Saturday, but it'll be Thursday, Saturday nights during rugby season. It was Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights outside of that. Hope mum and dad don't hear that, but it was actually dry July that I went, no, I've got to pull my head in, let's do this. And I found that dry July actually showed me that I can go out and be social. It was hard. Without actually having to drink. And it was actually a really positive experience for me. And I think that's probably the best thing that I did for myself, for sure.
When did you when did you figure out you had ADHD?
When did I figure out? Versus when I got diagnosed. It's probably very different things. I got the old mum and auntie go, oh, you had ADHD? Well, I got on that path today. It was 2.5 years? No. 2.5 years ago, I think it was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So it's kind of at the start before it became a
yeah,
cool thing. I was
yeah,
right at the start that was something, but has completely changed my life. Like
yeah,
best thing I could have done. Like it actually all
mm,
makes sense now.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's funny though, right?
So
Like, because I worked it out as well, and then I'm like, how did I not know that? Like, I did vaguely have some idea, but not. Yeah, it's just bizarre that it was kind of so obvious.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think in 90s maybe you didn't want to get diagnosed.
yeah, no,
And I was actually, when I was at home trying to work from home during COVID, and the
yeah,
wife picked up on it, she goes, "You have literally been up and down out of your seat about 12 times today." It's just like before
yeah,
lunch. I'm like, "Yeah, is that not normal?" She goes, "No." I'm
yeah,
like, "There you go." So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And now you can see other
So,
people in it. Like, you'd like, pretty sure
yeah,
especially
I
in a
think we've got to be
sports
careful
environment.
about. Yeah, definitely the sports environment. A lot of people go down that path, and that's an outlet. I see a lot with tradies
Yeah,
as well.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah,
if I
yeah,
knew I had it as a kid, I probably wouldn't have done the job that I'm doing now, even though I
mm,
love it. I probably have gone down the probably doctor or a diagnostician. That's what I would have
yeah,
loved to do, I think, in
yeah,
hindsight. Look, I think there is a lot of discussion around it. I know there's a study that came out that, what you see on social media in terms of ADHD symptoms aren't always the case. I think it's
yeah,
all about
yeah,
severity. So it's a
yeah,
balance between, oh yeah, everybody's a little bit ADHD, which I think is awful, to
yeah,
actually the debilitating effects that come with ADHD, which I think that's an interesting one. So, yeah,
mm,
there's a lot of discussion around it. I think a lot of people potentially have it, but I think a lot of people also just think they've got the symptoms because there's other
mm,
stuff going on as well. I'm not dismissing what they're feeling, but I definitely think
yeah,
there's a balance between the two, and it's hard. And that's
yeah,
what the psychologists and psychiatrists' jobs are to try to tease
yeah,
out, right? That's why we have to go through them to get the diagnosis.
yeah. Is there much around diet that affects the ADHD stuff? Like, is it like,
Yeah, that's a squeaky dog in the background. So
yeah, I guess
thanks,
so
mate.
good.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got to be careful with what I say here. I definitely think there's a factor that your symptoms are worse when we don't have good eating and diet
Mm,
practices.
mm,
In terms of causation, I think depends on how severe it is. Again, we're going from New Zealand,
right,
good quality eating, to overseas,
mm,
America. I'm not saying
mm,
America's, I probably should be careful, but America, general food, and probably
yeah,
European as well, like the beige diet, a lot of fat, a lot
yeah,
of sugar, a lot of salt. Processed stuff obviously could have significant effects. I think, yeah, there's a lot of information going like this is causing ADHD and that sort of stuff.
mm,
Look, I think it's a more symptom-based approach of just when someone isn't feeling good or fueled right, the ADHD symptoms are significantly worse.
yeah,
Again,
right, yeah,
whether it's causation or not what I've
mm,
seen. Again, not my area of expertise, but I think we're a little
yeah,
bit careful about the language that surrounds that as well.
mm,
So,
right.
something that we're actually going to be talking about potentially at the GP conference at the end of the year in
Oh,
a
yeah,
few
cool.
months' time, actually, which I'll be part of.
Mm. Yeah, nice. Cool. So one thing I've got I've had a few golf clients who, for mindset stuff and mental skills, and I would go through a bit of their stuff and then trying to work out why they would not performing the last 6 holes, and then
12th hole.
ask them yeah,
It's
ask them
literally the
what
12th hole. Yeah. Yeah.
ask them what they eat and drink, and some of them would drink nothing, like not an ounce of water the whole round, and some of them would eat
Yeah.
nothing or only eat the very smallest amount of food before a round because they were
Mm,
so nervous. And I was like, oh my god.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
obviously
There's so
that's going
many,
to have a
again.
huge influence. Yeah, what sort of stuff is there that obviously it's different for each person in different sport, but
Yeah, I think it's
should,
sitting down and looking at the day as a whole. It's about
yeah,
structuring the day effectively. If you're going out for a casual round, I guess especially young people not playing tournament, they might go around on a Saturday and they might tee
mm,
off relatively early, have breakfast, jump on the range for half an hour, then go out and play their round. It takes 3.5 hours and they can get through it okay. And then
yeah,
they'll be back
yeah,
in time for lunch. So they'll be like, oh yeah, okay, there's nothing,
good,
they
yeah,
might
yeah,
have a couple of snacks on the course and that's it, but they've actually haven't taken up too much of their day. But when
mm,
tournament hits, you go, okay, so actually tee off's not till 9:30. We're probably going to be there an hour and a half beforehand. So
mm,
you'll have breakfast and
mm,
then they won't have anything else. And then suddenly the round actually takes 5 hours because it's
yeah,
tournament.
yeah,
So we're
yeah,
getting
yeah,
closer to like 2:30. And you go, you've
mm,
actually missed lunch. Plus
mm,
you're out on there for longer, you're on your feet for longer, your energy expenditure's higher.
yeah,
So there's two ways to look at it is your expenditures significantly increase while playing golf. Like walking, we're talking can be sort of 1,500 calories, which is
yeah,
2
yeah,
meals equivalent.
yeah, right,
The second thing is you're probably missing meals because you're out there for so long.
mm,
So like those are the two things we need to look at. So what I always say is every third hole, alternate
yeah,
like a mini meal could be like a sandwich with cheese, or it could
yeah,
be even a muesli bar, like an OSM bite, or it could be
yeah,
protein nut bar. Just it's frequent eating across that.
mm,
And when you start, you got to think, okay, there's an opportunity for me to leave the house, have a meal, then I might take something with me that might be overnight oats or something to have around. So maybe do some range work, snack, and then go jump on the putting green. And then I'm kind of ready to go and settle those nerves. Because actually eating food can actually settle your stomach as well.
Yeah, right.
People get scared of it because they've got an unsettled stomach, but actually having a little bit can actually help that. And we see that a lot with, with people that go through pregnancy and they're having morning sickness. Like actually eating a little bit and frequently can help settle that. I'm not saying it's the answer for everything, but it's a good starting point because it triggers that rest and digest or the parasympathetic nervous system. So that's probably a key thing is looking at, okay, where does the game sit? What meals are you missing? And then are you actually eating significantly more? And it'll be almost like every 3 holes. And the other thing with the fluid as well, we can get caught up with the heat and the rest of it, but just generally sipping on water is the best way to do it. If you find you struggle to drink, add like a low carb electrolyte in the morning and before you're around. The salt in it will actually stimulate thirst, stimulate that feeling. So you actually go and reach for fluid more than what you would if you didn't. The second thing is having fluid closely available. So having a little like drink holder on your trundler next to you is going to be more appropriate than tucking it in your bag at the front. Same with the food is put it in the little pouch bag in front of you because if you see it, you're going to more likely to eat it. If it's hidden, you're not. So there's little strategies like that too. And the third thing that I often do with this stuff is write on your card, circle holes. And if you've got a caddy, get them to do that. When you circle your hole, you know that that's a food hole.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, cool.
And you do that on the tee.
Yeah, nice. Cool. So just moving on to kind of covered that already. Okay, cool. So, what about so like people, so one thing I reckon with more like corporate provider, one thing I notice a lot with workplaces when they do the wellbeing like stuff, it's like I will put on a feed and it's all junk food or it's drinks and like, it's very rarely like actually something beneficial, like it tastes good, obviously. But is there
sushi?
Yeah. Like, is there a bit of guidelines around what they could make that like a little bit better?
Yeah, well, I think it's hard because what happens is you've got people, especially higher up, and you might only have a third of the company that actually have any interest in eating well, and they feel like they can be a burden on the rest of the group. But it's about changing up. It's about having options. And what often it's not about not providing the savories in the sushi. I'm not a huge sushi's performance food. Go plate model. It's all literally just carb and sugar. Nothing against sushi, but it's performance food anyway. So my advice would be give people options that they can choose. So it may be like sort of even just like club sandwiches that are actually like epic. They got egg, you got ham, you got some veg in there, perfect. You might have a fruit platter. Now I think if even a fruit bowl should be common in the workplace. They're cheap. People, they get sent them, like there's companies that actually send those frequently. Have that available. You'll find that people will start to eat it more. And it might be like veg platters as well. So having options for people to choose from that have a range of different sources are really important. I get stuck in the trap of just having, the yum food all the time. You can have both. But if people have the option of doing the other stuff as well, then they're actually going to probably pick it up. You'd be really surprised. And then you start to build that over time.
Yeah. No, 100%. We, on our workshops, because we're trying to preach this, healthy living stuff, I tend to have just a few treats, but all the good stuff always gets taken. Like they actually love it. Like, I think it's always something that like, I don't even, if I get caterers in, sometimes it's not even like, it doesn't matter if it's professionally made or if it's just something I've done, if it's a smaller group. They always make comment of like, oh, actually it was so good having some good food. I actually felt better throughout the day. And and I guess like, I think if from workplaces, they actually think of it from a performance point of view. Like, I mean, I know personally, if I eat crap, my afternoon crash is horrific and I get nothing done. I might as well go home. I'm just a waste of space.
I've had a client recently say that to me. So in the corporate space, and they were, the biggest realization I had is how bad I was feeling when I was, going into old habits. They had a day where they didn't eat properly. And guess what? The lead-on effect wasn't just one day, it was multiple days. Because suddenly they're like, is that how I used to feel? I'm like, yeah, all the time. But the biggest barrier. And the same with the golf thing. When you've got food close to you, it's about accessibility. And it's the same across the board. People won't eat it if it's not there. So if it is accessible, then they have a choice. And you'll find when you start to change, it goes back to the culture. And this doesn't mean like Māori Pacific Island in terms of culture. This means like workplace environment culture. It's having available the things that are going to nourish people both physically and mentally. So then you can actually get best performance, whether it be a team or whether it be a workplace. At the end of the day, it's all performance in their own right.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. I think what was I going to say? I've lost my train of thought. Yeah, I mean, it seems, actually that's what it was. Michelle and I obviously pretty priority on like health and well-being. It's part of our job, so it's something we always do. But if we buy crap, hey, we'll just smash it. Like if it's there in the cupboard, it'll be calling our name and it'll be gone. So I don't think it's, it's if you can have them and have what you need there. So you go to the good stuff first, and then you get your treat. You have to. There's a bit more effort to go get it, then you're less likely to smash it out. Eh?
Yeah, exactly. And I think with that, like it's about converting that language to a treat, because then suddenly it's like, oh, I've been good, so I deserve something. It's actually like it goes back to the occasional food. It's like, might be a day it's like, oh, do I actually feel like that? Or am I just thinking I need it because it goes back to the whole beer thing at the end of the day. I feel like I've got through a hard days of work. I deserve this because it's a treat.
Yeah.
It's all the rest of it. So if you go, actually, no, the first thing I'm going to do is look, let's see if it's hunger. And I'm going to go have like a beautiful, high fiber cereal with, good quality Greek yogurt. This is after dinner. And I have that and see how I feel afterwards, see if I still need that treat. And then it's like, well, actually, no, I'm actually just hungry. So it's just, I actually feel better and I feel fine now, rather than it being like, actually, no, I still want it, because it's actually about that whole, I need a bit of a dopamine hit. So what you'll do is you'll break, you say it's chocolate, you'll break off 4 pieces. You won't take the block to the couch, because trust me, that will go. Take off 4 pieces. You actually break them all up into a little bowl, little ramekin. And you go sit down and you actually mindfully eat it. So you actually go, right, what about this do I actually enjoy? Taste, texture, smell, and sound. And then you start to work on all those 5 senses, and you start to go, actually, what is it? Because sometimes you go, okay, piece of chocolate sweet, you've swallowed it before you even tasted it. But it's like, I'm actually having chips because I like the sound of it. Oh, well, why don't I try popcorn instead? Oh, because I'm getting the crunch, and that's what I'm looking for. So when you start to understand that, I think that's where you can actually go, right, it's no longer a treat, it's an occasional food, and I'm going to goddamn enjoy it.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's pretty crazy how, like, I think, like, when I've had like a goal and I'm quite driven on something, then like my mindset's all about fuel for the food's just fuel for whatever that's, But when it's not, and it's just, you can just be like, oh, eat whatever. And like, it's crazy how like some of that sweet stuff, like, as you said, you just for that little dopamine hit or whatever, and it's gone. But the long lasting effect is, it could be 2 hours of unproductive work, or, you get the crash. Like my sugar crashes are really bad. I'll get real sleepy in the afternoons if my diet's pretty poor. And it's interesting how, and if you just think like, for what that little taste is, for what the like I always talk about, like if you, so like a lot of people don't like ice bars because how discomfort is for that 2 minutes, but then you get that really nice 2 hours afterwards. It's almost like the opposite of like drinking. Like if you had to have the hangover first, no one would drink.
That's a really good point. I like that.
Like, so it's because that discomfort comes first, people won't do it. But the discomfort comes after. It's sweet as I'll just, I'll take it's easy, it's convenient, it's quick. I'll get that hit from it,
Yeah, and that's something you mentioned around the goals. Some people drive that, but what that does is creates, I guess, barriers and boundaries. Obviously, it's an incentive. Like, I'm just not saying goals are negative at all. I think there's definitely values with goals, and they create habits off the back of that. But I talk about what does a positive circle look like, and what does a negative circle look like? And what is your one thing that you're going to do that's going to create that positive circle? For some people, it is getting in the ice bath in the morning. If they do that one thing, then what is the positivity that comes from it? It's getting up and going to the gym, or going for a run, or going for a walk in the morning when it's wet, dark, cold, whatever it is. It creates that positive circle. It could be that the first meal they have in the day is the most nourishing meal for them of the day. It creates that positive circle. And then whether it's the ice bath and it makes good decisions around food, and then it goes like, I'm going to do some exercise, that's your positive circle. But it's like, what is the one thing that's going to do that? Because it's going to be just as easy going the other way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like, that's the way to look at it and go, okay, if I don't do that said ice bath, and then this is the negative effect that could happen. But if you find that it might be a good breakfast is the one thing, then that's your one thing to create that positive circle. And it's the lead on effects from that. And this is where I always talk to people about is like, what makes you feel good? What one thing? And then you leverage off that as almost the shining light that goes all down on the bottom. And then you go, correct, right, let's bring a goal to play here and go, what are those discipline things I'm going to work on for me to achieve that goal? But it's that one thing that's going to probably change it for general health and wellness. Otherwise, you keep jumping on and off the so-called wagon.
Yeah,
right?
100%. Yeah. I've got quite a few mates and clients doing 75 hard and like paleo diets, that sort of things. And like, I mean, I'm sure there's some good like outcomes from it, but it's like, sustainable is that going to be? Like, are they going to go? And a lot of them are the guys that they do it, they commit to it, and then they just go back completely to the other way because they've like starved themselves or they've had to really miss out on all this stuff. And that's the feeling.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if we look at, we use, I guess, bariatric surgery for an example here. You know, I've got people that I work with that will work really, really hard their whole lives and just can't lose weight, you know, and people go, oh, but a lot of people have bariatric surgery and they just go back to where they were. And it's like a lot of people, this is probably sort of summarizing this quite simply, but they will go down the bariatric route and they've done all this work beforehand. This is a thing that's going to enable them to then continue these habits long term, and they get really good success out of it. And it's the people that rebound are the ones that actually haven't found, they've kind of just gone like, cool, bariatric surgery is going to help me lose weight and that be it. But they haven't actually learnt any of the skills that have come with that. Yep. And that's where, you know, I've had clients that come and sit down with me, look, I've just talked to my GP and I'm going to look at on the bariatric route. And I say, great. And they go, what do you mean? I'm like, you are literally done everything that you can to try lose weight. You are, you know, you've got the skills in place. You're trying to make a thing. And like, literally, this is just the one thing that's going to help you take that next step. Yeah. Because what they're actually using that for is a tool that enables them to put all these habits in place. Whereas all people are trying to focus on the outcome. So they go do 75 hard, for example, because all they're focused on is going, I'm going to get that outcome, which is losing 15 kilos, let's say. But what have you actually done in the skills that are involved with that? And then it's about that whole realization and like, what is the process in focusing on those habits? And that's probably the key thing when it comes to nutrition, because it has to be sustainable. It has to be long term. And what I do with my clients on the 75 hard thing, I don't do a 75 hot soft. I don't think that's the thing either. Well, that could be, but it has to be realistic. But what I do is I do the ADOP sticker chart. Same concept. But we are wired as, a lot of us are wired as human beings to be competitive, and especially sports people and business people. But also they like a reward or seeing a reward, hence the treat thing. But what we do is we have a little sticker chart, and I've had middle-aged men use their daughter's unicorn sticker charts, and they've written down, okay, what is something that they can achieve every day? And it could be, I need to be in bed for 8 hours. I need to have water as the first thing in my day. And what they do is they put a sticker on each day. And at the end of the week, they'll go out of 7. And it doesn't matter if they've missed one, because you give yourself a score at the end of the day. So you might do 5 things, you could do 7 things, but it's just something that you can achieve every single day. So going to the gym may not be appropriate because you need to have a day off, but it could be 30 minutes of movement. And that could be something to get you started. So you have that ticked off, what's realistic, and then suddenly you give yourself a score. And then when those habits start to be ingrained, you go 4 weeks, nailed it, 7 out of 7, cool. That could be time for you to implement something a bit harder, because then we're starting to layer it. But then what that does is you have that on the fridge. The 9-year-old daughter will come along and go, oh, what are you doing with my sticker chat, Daddy? And it's like, cool. Then there's suddenly an external incentive. And you're actually buying the whole family and your environment to the process. And I said, that's how you make it sustainable, and that's how you start to strengthen, because there's someone looking at it, someone's asking the question, and at the end of the day, we love rewards. And simply putting a sticker on a chart could be enough of a reward for us as human beings.
It's that accountability too, eh? Like you having to actually reflect, did I do that or not?
100%.
I like that. One more thing. I was thinking before, which I forgot to mention. So when you're in that, a lot of people are obviously quite highly stressed and they're in that sympathetic nervous system. How does that affect your digestive system and how you store fat and all those sort of things?
Yeah, I think we've got to be careful with how it stores fat and how it affects our insulin. I guess when you're in a fight or flight state, as soon as you go higher heart rate out of, zone 2 plus, your body starts to release glucose. It's what it's designed to do. At the end of the day, the way I look at it is I think we've got to look at the behaviors that are associated with that more than the physiological response. The behaviors that happen, yes, we could look at physiology, but I think that's all the people doing the good stuff before the bariatric surgery. That's kind of their group. Whereas if we look at stress, first thing would be the impact on the gut. So what it does is actually turns the gut down in terms of its functioning. So often we see stress-related irritable bowel syndrome. I think it's like 3 out of 4 people, potentially, don't quote me on that, but I know there's a significant amount of people that actually get benefits from hypnotherapy as basically a form of meditation to help any sort of IBS or basically intolerance. And a lot of it comes from stress. So that's the first thing. And when your gut's unhappy, your brain's unhappy. And again, it goes back to that whole cycle. So it could be like, what is going to make my gut feel good? Which is going to enable me to make those good decisions. So that's probably the only real physiological thing that stress can impact. And layering on, quick, convenient food, which is the sugar, it's the dopamine hits, the quick stuff, and then it's the caffeine as well, are going to negatively impact that gut microbiome. So when we look at going, right, okay, if I'm stressed, that's part of life. But what are the things that are going to make me handle that stress better? Obviously all the work that you do, but from a nutrition perspective, it's just get the basics right. And if that means that, okay, I might need to order food in externally, let's say someone's going through exams, probably poor thing, which is, let's say a student's got money, they're going through exams, and it's like, no, during this time, I'm going to outsource my food. I'm going to get, good balance of just literally look at my plate. Has it got a carb? Has it got a protein? Sorry, dog. Has it got a protein? Has it got a fruit and veg in it? And then you go, right, I'm going to get that for lunch. I'm going to have that for dinner. And then all I need to make is some overnight oats in the morning. And at least I've got some baseline stuff there happening that's going to enable me to handle that stress better. Because there's stress that people go, I get to the end of the day, I'm cooked and I can't make decisions, especially around food. I get to the end of the week, I'm spending 2 days recovering. So I don't want to have to make decisions around food. So you might go outsource it, bang. You might do a food box. That comes in. You don't have to make that decision. And I think for a lot of people that I work with, they're looking to reduce that decision fatigue. So my mind is like, okay, let's ignore the physiological issues that come from stress. Yes, there are significant, but what are the behavioral ones first that might be able to mitigate the stress effects? Unfortunately, we live in a stressful world and we want to reduce that, but let's not try, what is the magic bullet that's going to make my body function better? At the end of the day, sleep and stress are that fundamental thing at the bottom, and then how do we actually get good nutrition that helps all the good stuff that happens there too.
Yeah, perfect. Nice, mate. Awesome, mate. Well, I'm conscious we've been going almost an hour, which has been very easy, but we could probably talk for 3. I really appreciate your time, bro. We've been a wee while since we caught up, so it was cool just to catch up as well. If anyone wants to, you've got some really good stuff on social media, especially around this stuff as well. So what is your socials and stuff? Can you tell us about
I think it's Conrad Goodhue, Conrad Goodhue Nutrition. I'll probably do a little bit more on LinkedIn, more around the sort of the business side of things as well, and corporate. I might do a bit more there. More so than, Instagram. Obviously my website too. But I need to be more active, but I'll just figure out the time and that sort of stuff when. As per.
It's funny, I get people saying with me, like, they go, oh man, you've been so busy at the moment. I've seen on social media. It's like, if I'm doing lots of social media, it means I'm not that busy because I've got time to do social media.
Good, It's definitely what I say to my young grads as well. There's some stuff you see on social media, people that are probably, they do have time. So, but look, I think there's a time and place for it. But I think the expectation around that is, unless that's your business, unless you are an influencer. Whole other conversation.
Yeah, totally. Hey, awesome, man. I really appreciate your time. And it's great, some great content there for our listeners. So that'd be bloody good. Thanks, mate.
All right. Cheers later.